Okay, good afternoon, everybody. I will ask you to take your seats quite quickly, please. And remember to turn your phones to silent. This afternoon, we're going to have two special presentations, a special keynote speaker, and a very dynamic fireside chat, which I know is why the room is filling so quickly, given the announcements last night. So let's jump right in. And first, I'm going to call on my good friend, Michael Goring. I need my Where's Michael button. Where did he go? There he is. Okay, come on up here, Michael. I'd really like to thank MABC for being the sponsor of our first session, and I'd like to invite Michael up to introduce Colleen Giroux-Schmidt.
Thank you. Thank you, Sarah. Good afternoon, everybody. Full house. BC Natural Resource Forum never disappoints. And it's been a great conference thus far. On behalf of BC's mining and smelting industry, I'd like to welcome you to the BC Natural Resources Forum's Fireside Chat on Electrifying the Economy. The Mining Association is very pleased to sponsor this part of the program. And I know we're all pleased to be joined today by the Honourable Josie Osborne, BC's Minister of Energy, Mines and Low Carbon Innovation, and Mr. Chris O'Reilly, the President and CEO of BC Hydro. Please. This fireside chat will be moderated by Colleen Giroux-Schmidt, Vice President, Corporate Relations at Innergex. And as I look at our stage, it occurs to me that the only thing we're missing for this fireside chat could be a high-efficiency electric fireplace.
We were just saying that as we walked.
Maybe for next year. Either that or a heat pump. Could be a little awkward, a little too big. Before I hand it over to Colleen, I want to take this opportunity to emphasize that as one of BC Hydro's largest customers, BC's mining industry takes a very keen interest in electrification. We have two new gold mines opening in 2024. Steve and Dean spoke about the success of thus far of Blackwater last night. We also have a number of other copper, gold, and steelmaking coal mines or mine extension projects that are approaching their final investment decisions in the next few years. And just last week, MABC released an economic impact study that highlighted BC's potential for new additional critical mineral mines, contributing significantly to our economy and to economic reconciliation. These projects represent $36 billion in near-term investment, 300,000 person-years of employment, and $11 billion in tax revenues just for their construction. So given the projected growth and potential of BC's critical minerals opportunity, it's imperative that BC has the competitive fiscal and regulatory policies in place to attract investment in the sector, especially given the efforts of other mining jurisdictions like Ontario and Quebec. So this is about attracting the investment here into British Columbia. Once a decision is made to invest in our province, of equal importance is that new investment in transmission and electrification is there to ensure the power will be there when we need it. This means having the infrastructure required to deliver more power so new mines can connect to the grid, and existing mines which are expanding can have access to the power they need. It means ensuring our province's mining sector can continue to have among the lowest emissions in the world. And it's key to positioning BC as a leading global supplier of responsibly produced critical minerals. And with Premier Eby sharing the news last night about BC Hydro's updated capital plan, today's fireside chat is very timely and significant not only for the mining sector, but for all sectors of our economy and for all British Columbians. And I look forward to an engaging, insightful dialogue. And with that, I invite Colleen to kick it off. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Michael. All right, so I'm not going to go on lengthy introductions. Everybody knows who these two folks are, but just to get us started, since we're after lunch and get the brains re-engaged, I asked both Minister and Chris to share something that nobody knows about them. So you may be surprised to learn that the minister is also a very accomplished taxidermist and has a small collection of birds that she has taxidermed. And that Chris, during COVID, learned to play the guitar and plays a mean Green Day. So those are both really interesting and very different. So as I was struggling with how do I put these together into something witty to start with, I thought I would suggest a collaboration once we're done with this small project we're going to talk about in a minute. And so perhaps you could collaborate on a rendition of Leonard Cohen's Bird on a Wire. Oh, wires.
Well done, well done.
All right, so that was my stressful part of this. And so now, $36 billion announced last night. Is this a big deal?
Okay. Yes, this is a huge deal. I mean, it is huge in so many ways. First of all, it is such a visible, loud, and proud commitment to the fact that we need to build out our electrical infrastructure, our generation capacity, the ability to transmit electrons across the province as we electrify in all corners of the province and across the economy. It's not just about industry like Michael was referring to, the mining industry or electrifying ports. It's also about electrifying our transportation, our homes, the way we do business. With the influx of new people coming to British Columbia and the need to build more and more housing, this is a huge area of electrification as well that we know we need the resources to put towards in order to do that work. It is so critically important that we have a solid, concrete plan moving forward. And to see the kind of commitment that BC Hydro is putting forward in this new capital plan, I think really speaks for itself. The opportunity for work, for jobs, especially as some of the major projects in British Columbia are winding down, like Site C or TMX, and to know that there's a place for people to go and that there will be really great paying jobs for people to support families in this industry for years to come. It's a big deal.
Yeah, I think it speaks to the significance of the multiple transitions we're experiencing in our economy. The minister spoke of the growth in the population, and we see that in the housing starts around the province. The energy transition that we're all experiencing is profound, and we recognize the role that electricity and electrification play in that. And I think, you know, and I don't need to tell people in this room, but I think an undertold story in the province is the potential industrial growth that we're seeing all over British Columbia, and you know, that's still in development phase and still uncertain, but we don't need a lot of those projects to go forward for there to be a significant power demand and a significant change. So it's really important that we meet that moment at BC Hydro, and we've been gearing up for this. We have a substantial capital plan already, and so this is a scaling up of that, and we're you know, prepared to do what is necessary to ensure that customers have confidence in our system and ability to deliver.
Great, and I know there's many of us in the room that are here to help, and it's going to be a challenge that takes all of us working together to help the province thrive. You referenced the energy transition, and we're really in a paradigm shift in our relationship with energy and the pull, if you will, coming from customers, whether it's homeowners making different choices in their homes and asking for different things from the electricity system, or whether it's businesses that around the world we're seeing are choosing to go set up shop in jurisdictions that can deliver that low-cost, reliable, safe, emission-free energy. So, Minister, I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit about how the energy transition and the province's commitments on Clean BC and how that weaves together into some of the movements and choices that are happening.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Colleen. We are in a moment of history, I think, that's absolutely unprecedented. And it's been decades since there's been such a massive transformation or transition from the way we energize our entire economy. We know, because we've lived it, the impacts of climate change are very real. We're feeling them. We see the wildfires, we see the flooding, we see heat waves, and we know, and our children and our grandchildren are calling upon us to make change. Electrification is one pathway to do this, to decarbonize our economy, reduce our dependency on fossil fuels as we transition, move away from that dependency and into one that's a much cleaner future. So Clearly, electrification is a huge pathway, and I think the announcement of the capital plan is a huge part of that. But it's more than just that. Clean BC is a set of policies that show us how we can decarbonize our society and our economy so that we lower emissions to keep in line with commitments that countries and jurisdictions around the world are making. What Clean BC is not is an energy plan in and of itself. And so that's why we're focused on, through my ministry, leading the development of a climate-aligned energy framework, one that really brings together the different pathways and types of energy we can use, be it hydrogen, renewable fuels, biofuels, clearly BC's clean electricity, to decarbonize that economy. But we also know that we have to do this in a way that is affordable for people and for industry, and to keep our energy system absolutely reliable, because people depend upon that reliable, safe electricity or energy to heat their homes, to drive their cars, to power industry as well. This is going to take, like Colleen said, collaboration and partnership. None of us can do this alone. Fortis can't do it alone. BC Hydro can't do it alone. Government can't do it alone. We have to be together at the table to do this work, which is why you'll continue to see that commitment from government through the development of a climate-aligned energy framework, through the work that BC Hydro is doing, and again, the strong foundation of reconciliation and partnership with First Nations. As BC Hydro is moving forward to do business in a very different way, so is industry. And here I am at the Natural Resource Forum. I'm meeting with gas companies, I'm meeting with mining companies, and we're talking about that commitment to reconciliation and true partnership with First Nations. It is exactly the same for this transition right now. This offers an opportunity for all British Columbians to be engaged and involved, and it's something that's very exciting, and I feel really, really privileged to be a part of.
Awesome. So Chris, I'm going to get into the weeds a little bit now because, okay, great headline. What does $36 billion mean for BC Hydro? What is this capital plan going to enhance, and what are you going to be busy with in the next 10 years?
I'll just pick a couple examples, maybe a big and a small. And I think the last year when we were here, we announced an expression of interest for potential industrial customers on the North Coast to take part in an expansion of the transmission system. And we got a tremendous response back from that, both the number and diversity of customers across all sectors. And so we embarked this year on the twinning of the line, and we're still at the early stages. The key part of that project is the idea of Indigenous co-ownership of that line, and that's an emerging model in Canada. We're really excited. We've been engaged with First Nations along the line over the past year to develop, try and develop a plan and an agreement and a business model, really. And I think that is one of the, will be one of the most significant economic reconciliation examples that it's ever happened in Canada, and a really, really exciting development, and I think an example of doing things differently. As the minister said, we have to find new ways to partner and get these projects built more quickly, and we think Indigenous co-ownership is absolute key to that, and we're hearing some really good support for it. I think on a small scale, we have 1 million power poles around the province. The kind of things you see going down the sides of the roads, and there's 100,000 of those, 10%, that we're going to be replacing in that time. So it's big projects, it's medium and smaller chunks of work done day to day to keep the power system reliable and sustainable for the next generation of customers.
So before we get to the physical work of the building, there's a not insignificant amount of permitting and approvals and consultation that is part of how we do business here in British Columbia. And so, again, common theme in this room, and it's been a common theme in this room for the 21 years that this conference has been happening, is how do we find a more efficient and effective way to move through those processes so that we can get projects to reality faster. And so wondering if both of you could speak from your perspectives, what can we do, Minister, for you, what's being done with the province to help accelerate some of those timelines so we can move through faster? And Chris, from your perspective, interconnection as a customer or as a load is again, a perennial topic we like to talk about. So if you can speak a little bit to that one.
Thank you. Well, first of all, I think it starts off with a recognition that this is a problem. We cannot take 10 years to build a new transmission line. We know that there's an urgency to these projects that need to be built. Second, it's the application of resources and innovative thinking and partnership to permitting processes to rethink them, to be more efficient, to save time without compromising the environmental values that we have and the need to protect the environment. And I think a lot of this starts with that clear partnership, first and foremost, with First Nations. So the way our government is going about this work in a transformative way through land use planning, partnerships with First Nations to understand where the go and no-go zones are with natural resource projects. We're seeing this in forestry, we're seeing this in oil and gas, we're seeing this in the work that Hydro is doing at the table with First Nations to understand what the impacts potentially of projects are and how we can partner on processes that are simply more efficient. Government is putting more resources to this, and we've heard several times, we've heard it from the Premier, we hear it from Minister Colleen, who through his ministry, Water, Land and Resource Stewardship, is leading the work inside government to find more efficiencies and collaboration even between ministries. Minister Callon and the work he's doing in housing has seen tremendous impact in even just a short period of time to speed up and make these permitting processes more efficient. There's more work to do, and we're not going to stop. So you'll see in the coming weeks and months too, as we talk about the resources that we have that are being applied to from the mining sector to the housing sector. And clearly this is going to make a big difference, I think, and I'm sure Chris can touch on this in the work that we're doing through the task force, bringing government and BC Hydro together to really take a focused look at permitting efficiencies right from the ground up.
Yeah, on the interconnections, I think there's different challenges and situations with the larger customers and the smaller distribution. So on the larger customers, there's just a tremendous degree of collaboration required, not just between BC Hydro and the customer, but often groups of customers and increasingly First Nations. And we see that very much so in the North Montney and the gas fields as we work to find solutions that can allow groups of companies to electrify their resources, and it's really hard work, and I appreciate all the goodwill and collaboration among all the parties to make that happen. On the distribution side, it's more of a volume issue, and we've been adding resources, we've been doing process efficiencies. One of the things we recognize is the need to update our extension policy, which is a tariff approved by the Utilities Commission. Really excited about the progress that we've seen on that. We're going out for one more round of consultation and planning this spring to get that in front of the Commission, and we think there's some really good changes there that will facilitate faster interconnections on the distribution system. But we recognize the challenges and the strains, and really appreciate the cooperation that we see from our customers, large and small, on making the interconnections work.
What are you most excited about?
I think one of the things I'm most excited about is seeing the results of the work that we're all applying to this. And so as projects, as capital is invested and we are able to see new interconnections, new generation opportunities, I'm really excited to see the results of the call for power that's coming in spring, just in a few months from now, to see what industries like yours are going to respond to show us here in British Columbia how we can use renewable resources, integrate them into our grid. We've got this fabulous backbone of a hydroelectric system here in British Columbia. We are so fortunate to have the resiliency in the system that we have already, to know that we can integrate these new forms of electrical generation. But not just that, I mean, we tend to talk a lot about supply, generation, transmission, but also the other innovations that are underway, like demand-side measures and shifting the time of day that we use our appliances. BC Hydro's pilot vehicle-to-grid project, which is a really exciting way of looking at an asset that people have, cars, electrical vehicles, and using those as a way to help shift the demand and manage the load, as well as potentially be backup for times of emergency to power a community center or a school that needs it during a power outage. There's so much innovation out there, and we have so much of it here in British Columbia. It's something that really excites me to see what's going to happen over the next few years.
Awesome. And Chris, what's got you excited?
Yeah, I mean, these transitions occur, I mean, not even once a generation. It can be once in 100 years. So I think we just have to step back and just reflect on the enormity of the challenge and all the things that become possible when you're trying to do big things. And we talked about doing things differently with First Nations and with government, just the commitment within government to come at this permitting problem in new ways and try and achieve. We want to achieve high environmental standards, and we want to get to conclusions very quickly. It's incredibly exhilarating to see the progress and see the forward movement and to see things getting built, customers connected, and progress being made, and just always contemplate and have humility around just the importance of the work and how enormous the challenge is. And we just want to move forward. We want to leave the place better off than we found it, and I think we're doing that.
All right, so one of the privileges I get with my job is I get to work across North America and dabble a little bit globally, and every jurisdiction is going through and grappling with a lot of these challenges right now and opportunities. And so you also both sell British Columbia and the opportunity here, and there's a lot of businesses here that are also around the world. So why should people have faith that BC is the place to invest, and that backbone and that electricity and that certainty is something that will be delivered here? Chris, I'm going to make you go first and then let the minister collect her thoughts there.
I mean, just an interesting thing. So we came out with our own electrification plan, our first electrification, about 2.5 years ago. And I describe it at the time, it felt like a bit of a push with our customers. You know, we were trying to encourage them to make different decisions around the use of energy. And in that short period of time, we've really seen the ESG values in organizations take off. And that's become more of a pull. So customers are calling on us to do more and do things differently and help them be a bigger part of achieving their ESG goals. So I think BC's offering really is high environmental standards, high standards around working with Indigenous people and respecting communities, and that seems very much aligned with what companies want and want to convey to their own customers. So I think there's a real match, and it's really our time to take advantage of that. So, and I think that you see that with the number of people in the room here today, the number of people attending this conference, just so many great projects going forward. So I think what BC's offering is resonating in the world. And it's that's what the world wants, is more of BC. So we're trying to achieve that.
I think Chris said it so well. I mean, he touched on everything that we should be so proud of here in British Columbia. I was born and raised in BC. I think it's easy to be proud, but I always reflect on the fact that people are moving here because they want to be here. This is a stable, a safe place. It's a fantastic and beautiful place to raise your family, and we're seeing record numbers of newcomers coming to this province, and they're bringing with them talent and innovation and new ways of thinking, and helping us to be a more diverse and inclusive place. You add to that our just sheer amazing environment and the beautiful mountains, oceans, seas, lakes, rivers, everything that we have, and know that people here in British Columbia are so deeply committed to protecting this place and leaving it in a state that we can be proud of for our children and grandchildren. I think what Chris talked about with respect to ESG and what investors are looking for when they want to be in BC is absolutely spot on. And I certainly heard that when I was in London late last year, talking to different investment houses about why they would want to bring industry here or invest in industry here in BC, because it is around those high ESG standards. It's a great place to live and a great place to be, as well as a stable and safe jurisdiction. And we're in a time of a lot of uncertainty right now. We're seeing around the world that geopolitical uncertainty, and we know that we need to look inward here and make sure we've got those stable, safe, resilient supply chains. BC is a wonderful place to do that. But underlying it all, something that I think really sets BC apart from almost everywhere that I've been able to travel over the last year and talk to them, to different companies and different investment houses, is the growing relationship and the recognition that to do business in British Columbia is to do it in partner with First Nations. the kind of security and certainty that comes from that relationship. Just earlier today, Defense Metals and the McLeod Lake Indian Band made the announcement of an agreement. They haven't even begun to look at environmental assessment or development processes and permitting, but they've already announced their commitment to work together. That's a reflection of the fact that industry in BC understands we need to do things differently, and we are doing things differently. And this is something we're seeing at BC Hydro, we're seeing across the landscape of natural resource sector, and something I think we should be incredibly proud of.
Well, that I'll clap to. Yeah. So I think we're getting close to the end of our time. It was short and impactful. I think we've seen a pretty big commitment announced in the last 24 hours towards where BC's heading. I think you've got a room full of people that want this to be successful and are here to work with you to find how we accelerate this, how we deliver this. We have a lot of work ahead to make sure we have the supply chain in place, we have the labor in place, we have the permits in place, so we get the electrons in place so that everything else can get built and operate and everyone can be happy 21 years from now when we're at the 42nd Annual Natural Resource Conference, remembering that we were here when the big announcement was made. That was a big deal. So with that, thank you both so much for your wisdom and your commitment to the province and to the resource sector, and have a great afternoon, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Colleen. Now I'd like to invite Naylene Morin, Vice President of Sustainability at Skeena, to the microphone to thank our speakers.
On behalf of Skeena Resources, I would like to thank Minister Osborne, Chris O'Reilly, and Colleen Giroux-Schmidt for joining us here at BCNRF. I would also like to congratulate Minister Osborne and Chris on their announcement. As a member of the BC Hydro Board of Directors, I appreciate the tireless work these leaders commit to providing clean energy to all of British Columbians. And I look forward to seeing the positive impacts of this announcement and how they play out in BC. Electrification has been a key focus in Skeena's development on the Eskay Creek Revitalization Project. The project is proposed to use clean hydroelectric power from the provincial grid, connected to the nearby Coast Mountain hydroelectric facilities, partly owned by the Tahltan Nation. Collaboration with BC Hydro has produced a greenhouse gas forecast of 0.2 tons of carbon dioxide equivalent per ounce of gold produced, making the proposed project one of the lowest emission gold mines in Canada and globally. Thank you. Skeena is proud to play a role in BC's low carbon future, and we look forward to further collaboration with both Minister Osborne and BC Hydro. Thank you.